Hello, my fantastic third graders. Welcome back to Math with Mrs. Bailey. As you can see, I have Doug the Pug there. He's saying hi, and he's got his little puzzle right by him that I have in my classroom. Miss you guys so much, but it's all right. We're going to keep on rolling with math. I do have a joke of the day today. My joke is, what did the triangle say to the ball? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. What did the triangle say to the ball? You're pointless. You're pointless because a triangle has points on every side and a ball does not. You might be able to guess that today we're actually going to be talking all about triangles and how we can classify them, how we can tell them apart. So let's jump right into it. Alrighty, so basically there are two ways that you can classify a triangle. You can either classify a triangle by 1, its angles, or 2, its sides. And I'm going to give you a preview. Whenever you're classifying it by its angles, you're going to use these different terms. It might either be a right triangle, an obtuse triangle, or an acute triangle. Hopefully those sound familiar because we've talked about those angles before. And then the second way to classify it is by its sides. And the different sides that there are, the different type of triangles and the way that their sides are different, there's 3 different types for those two. For sides, there is equilateral, isosceles, make sure I spell it right. I'm running out of room. Isosceles. There we go. And then scalene. And I'm going to teach you about what all of those crazy words mean in the video. So come on with me. Alrighty. So, as you see here, I have a triangle. A triangle has 3 sides and 3 angles. This is what's called an acute triangle. So we're going to classify this triangle. We're going to name this triangle based on its angles. It says, what do you notice about all 3 angles in this triangle? Well, if we look at an angle, if we look at the triangle by the angle, remember we talked about these lines like this that make an angle. The same is true on the triangle. It's as if we're looking at that angle on the triangle. Well, if you remember, an acute angle is really, really, really tiny. It is smaller than 90 degrees. If I try to put a box in there, I can even put a shape. If I put a box in there, it is not going to work. It is too small. It does not fill much of that box at all. So it's an acute angle. And so, therefore, this triangle, let's see, let me zoom back out. This triangle is an acute triangle because it has acute angles. It has an acute angle, sorry, I'm being kind of funny. There we go. It has an acute angle right here, and right here. They are all less than 90 degrees. And with an acute triangle, its angles are all going to be acute. Tiny little angles. Let's look at the next one. Alright, this is an obtuse triangle. What do you notice about this triangle? Well, to me it looks like I do see some small angles right here. But Mrs. Bailey, you said it's an obtuse triangle. Well, the difference between an obtuse triangle and an acute triangle is that an obtuse triangle has at least one obtuse angle. And if you remember, when we talked about our angles, if we look up here at this angle is going to be larger than 90 degrees. It's going to be larger than our post-it note corner. If I put in, actually let me just draw it. If I try to put my box in here like that, you can see it extends longer than my box when I try to put those edges up right next to each other. So it's an obtuse triangle because it has one obtuse angle, as one angle that is larger or wider than the rest of them. It says to get out a sheet of paper and to try to to draw a triangle with two obtuse angles. You can try if you'd like, or you can keep watching the next video. Or the next slide, I mean. Alright, so this is a right triangle. What do you notice about this triangle? We might be saying, okay, I see some smaller angles right here. But then if you look in that corner, you might be saying, oh, Mrs. Bailey, that has a right angle. And it does. If I were to put a box in there, post it in there, that angle would make 90 degrees when I match it up on those sides. A right triangle is a triangle that has a right angle. If you want, you can try to draw a triangle with two right angles and see how that works out for you. But a right triangle is a triangle with a right angle. Just one. Alright? And then lastly, let's try some practice. It says, what kind of triangle is this? Well, I'm looking at my angles. I see, get my highlighter tool back out. This seems to be an acute angle. This seems to be an acute angle. But this angle here looks a lot wider than the other two. So this one is going to be an obtuse triangle. What kind of triangle is this? Oh my, look at that. They gave you a big old hint. They put that box in there for you, which tells you this is a right triangle because it has a right angle. Awesome. Let's move on. What kind of triangle is this? When I'm looking at my angles, I see a small acute angle, a small acute angle, and another small acute angle. So this must be an acute triangle. All right. Now we talked about how to classify triangles by angles. Now we want to talk about how you can classify triangles by their sides. So let's do some examples of those. Okay, so this says to look at this triangle. What do you notice about its sides? Well, if I look really closely, I notice that there's three sides, and also they all seem to be about the same length. If I were to take those sides off and put them all next to each other, they're probably all going to be about the same length. When a triangle has sides that are all the same length, this is called an equilateral triangle. Okay? And that's a new word for us. It kind of sounds like the word equal, right there. That's how I remember that name. An equilateral triangle has equal sides. They all are the same length. All right, now let's look at this triangle. What do you notice about its sides? Well, I look right away at the bottom. Right at the bottom, this side seems shorter than these two. And in fact, these two here look like they're about the same length. This is what's called an isosceles triangle. Go ahead and try to say that, isosceles. An isosceles triangle. If you look too, it gives you some hints. I do not know much about these root words, but Mrs. Phillips might be able to fill you in. It says isos means equal, and skelos means leg. Put it together and you have a triangle with two equal legs. So if that helps you, great. All right. Then it says, look at this triangle. What do you notice about its sides? Well, I'm trying to look at the length. This side looks the shortest to me. But it looks kind of lopsided. It does not look like the other two sides are equal, like the isosceles triangle. This side looks like it's one length, and then this side looks like it's one length. Basically, a scalene triangle is a triangle that has sides that have none of them with the same length. They're all different lengths. That's what's called a scalene triangle. And it gives you a word right there too. It comes from the word skelenos, which means uneven or equal. Also, when you say scalene, I think about, it looks to me like the triangle is leaning. It looks like it's unbalanced, so scalene has unequal sides. They're all very different. Alrighty, that wraps up our lesson. I do want to say a few things about your homework assignment though before you jump right into it. The first thing it asks you to do is to identify each triangle by describing its sides. So in this case, you're not going to describe it by its angles. You're only going to describe it by its sides. So you're only going to use the words either scalene, equilateral, or isosceles. Make that I better. For these ones. Only use scalene, equilateral, or isosceles to label the first 3 triangles. So for instance, if I look at that first one, I'm noticing that all of these side lengths are different. So in this case, this one is going to be a scalene triangle. So I would just write scalene right here. Okay. The next step is we need to identify each triangle by describing its angles. And I'm noticing too the directions are kind of weirdly worded. But identify each triangle by describing its angles. So this time we have to use only our angles. We're not going to use scalene, equilateral, or isosceles anymore because those are to describe sides. We need to describe angles. So for that section, you're either going to write acute, obtuse, or right. Okay. And also, this picture is kind of a little difficult. Assume that this right here is a right angle and this is a right triangle, but I know it might look a little funny. There are no other right triangles on that section though. All right. And then lastly it says draw a picture that includes all 6 types of triangles. Use the color key to identify each type. You do not have to use a color key if you don't want to. If you want to just draw, like so say you draw like your isosceles triangle right here, and you just then want to write like isosceles next to it or in it instead of labeling it with colors, that's fine by me too. It is up to you. All right, I hope that was helpful. That wraps it up for triangles. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a super fantastic day. I'm here if you need me, so are your parents, and I'll see you in the next math video. Bye, guys.